What's up, YouTube? I've got the Samsung Galaxy S20 Fan Edition right here in my hand, and that's what I'm reviewing today. My name is Zach with Android Digest, and today I want to dive in and let you know, is this Samsung Galaxy S20, the Fan Edition, is it worth buying? What compromises did Samsung make with this phone, if any at all, and how good is it? Should you spend your hard-earned money on it? Let's dive right in, and let's get into the review. Alright, so I've got the S20 Fan Edition here in my hand, and this phone retails for $699 in the US. And we've already seen a few sales off and on the phone, and that's pretty great. And Samsung, with making this phone, they were trying to make a phone that is great for this crazy world that we're in where people don't have a lot of money. They were trying to find a phone where they could fit all these great features into it. They wanted to put a 120 Hz refresh rate. They wanted this phone to have the best processor, and they wanted it to still have a very good display, so they wanted to find all those important things. Even water resistance, wireless charging. This phone can wirelessly charge other devices like your earbuds. So all these little things that you see these budget phone makers when they want to make a good mid-range phone, they really leave a lot of things out. But I'm telling you, Samsung did not leave a lot out of this phone. And that's why they probably call this the Fan Edition, because this is the phone that most people would want to buy, because not everyone has $1,000. So they didn't make a lot of compromises, but one small area of compromise that they made was on the design. If you take a look here at the back of the phone, you're going to notice that it's made of plastic. So if you don't like phones that are made of plastic, well, you might not like this phone. And some of us do not really care at all because we just put a case on our phone, and that's really one of the very few compromises that they made, was just a plastic back, and I could definitely live with that, especially given the price and all the sales going on. Now, if you look at the bottom of the phone, you will notice one speaker. You don't see two, but I'm telling you, the speakers are very good on this phone. There's a very small speaker up here and a second one here on the bottom of the phone. Now, they don't have anything on the left side of the phone, and on the right side of the phone they have a power button and up and down on the volume. On the top of the phone, they do have a micro SD card slot, even though I do not think you're really going to need it, and that also doubles as your SIM card slot. Now, on the front of the phone, you're going to see that the bezels are extremely small throughout the phone. You just have the front-facing camera here, so very small bezels, a very modern design, and you'll also see an in-screen fingerprint reader as well. Now, one area that they did not compromise much on, well, that is the display. It is a 6.5-inch display, and the resolution is 2400 by 1080. So that's a little bit worse than the Galaxy S20 series, so you could say that they did make a little bit of a compromise on the screen, but this still has a 120 Hz refresh rate. To see them bring that full 120 Hz refresh rate in a very good display here, it's absolutely great. This display also gets over 600 nits of brightness. I believe it's around 630 to 680, around there. So it gets very good brightness on the display, better than most phones I've used. Of course, it's an AMOLED display, which is a very good thing as well. So the display is absolutely great. And this phone also performs like a beast. It has the Snapdragon 865. Even though it's not the Plus model, it is still the Snapdragon 865. So again, they didn't make a lot of compromises here. You get a fantastic display, and you get the 120 Hz refresh rate, and you get the Snapdragon 865. And this phone does absolutely great with games. You're going to be able to max out nearly everything you're playing, and everything is so buttery smooth as you're scrolling through the phone and using it in day-to-day use. And this phone also comes with 6 GB of RAM, and you can upgrade. Some models will come with 8 GB. And you might be wondering if that would be a problem with performance, and I don't think so at all. Android is very smart, so even if you have 20 apps open at the same time, they're just going to clear out the last few apps that you've been using. So you're not really going to notice a hindrance on performance. This phone is very, very smooth, and it operates great. Now, one thing you notice when you're looking at the back of the phone is there is a triple camera setup, and the camera is very, very good on this phone. And so you're not going to get the 100 times zoom that you'd get from like the S20 Ultra or anything like that, but you are going to get a very good camera. So comparing it to even the S20 Ultra, you have to remember that there were some minor issues with focusing, and those issues were corrected in this model, at least mostly. So you're going to get very, very good shots overall, and in some ways you're going to get better shots than even the S20 Ultra, and in some ways you won't, because you're not going to get that huge zoom. But your average person doesn't really use that. So your main sensor has a 12 megapixel camera, your ultra wide camera is also 12 megapixel, and you also have an 8 megapixel camera, and that's a telephoto camera. Now your front facing camera is 32 megapixels there, and that's for ultra wide selfies, which is pretty darn cool. And you're going to notice with the shots that I've taken, I again take a lot of shots of my family in normal conditions, and you'll see that, well, me or my daughter or my wife, we have fairly good pictures that came out of this. We didn't have a lot of issues. The only thing you might notice with this camera is that it is a little bit slower on the shutter speed by just a little bit of a hair. So if you have a child like I do that always has a lot of movement, it might just be a little bit harder to get that great photo. But I don't want to overstate that as a big issue. I'd say this camera is 90% of what you're going to get from even the S20 Ultra or the regular Galaxy S20. It's very, very close. It's right there on that flagship level. So this is a really good camera, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Now the selfies I took with this phone were also very good, and video is also pretty good too. You might just notice again a step down in some ways from the S20 Ultra. There were some crazy things they put in there, like 8K video, things you're not even going to use as a normal human being. So you might see small downgrades in some departments, but this camera is very good, whether it's pictures or video. Now, one other area that you're absolutely going to love about this phone is the battery life. So this has a 4,500 milliamp battery. If you compare that to the regular Galaxy S20, that's only a 4,000 milliamp battery. So this has a better battery life than the Galaxy S20, and the battery life is right up there with other phones like the S20 Ultra or the S20 Plus. On a normal day, your average user will definitely get through the day with no problem. And a very heavy user like me, I was using my phone constantly, especially early on when I got this phone. I used it for a lot of things because it does have a nice size to it. Even then, I still got pretty good screen time. On your average day, I would be on it between 5 and 8 hours. So there is pretty good screen time. It can vary depending on your brightness and what you're doing, so just keep that in mind. Now, one area of this phone you would expect Samsung to really skimp out on is extra features. So almost every budget phone that I mentioned around this price point, between $500 and $700, normally they skimp out on things like wireless charging. Normally they skimp out on things like fast charging or really other areas, and you're going to find that there's not a lot of skimping out here. The speakers are absolutely great. This has a in-screen fingerprint reader that works very good, and the fingerprint reader is very fast. Outside of that, you do get fast charging on this. Now, it charges up to 25 watts with fast charging, and it also charges with, well, it's like 15 watts with what comes in the box. So you may have to buy a faster charger if you want to, but it does wirelessly charge up to 15 watts as well, which is another big bonus, and that's not something I would expect for a phone in this mid-range category. Not only that, but this phone will again actually wirelessly charge other devices that you have. So if I put my Galaxy Buds Plus on this phone, they will charge, which is pretty cool. Now, you do have to turn that on in the menu, but hey, that is a great feature to have. And this phone also has Samsung DeX. If you wanted to use this phone and plug it into a monitor, you could use a USB-C hub. I have a link for one in the description if you did want to purchase one. So you could use a USB-C hub, connect this to a monitor, and bam, you could use a desktop-like experience, which is very, very cool. And one other very important feature of this phone is that it is 5G capable, which is a big bonus. And if you get the Verizon version, you also get to use the millimeter wave technology that Verizon uses for 5G, but again, you would need to get the Verizon model to take advantage of that. So what are my overall impressions of this phone, and should you buy it? Well, this phone, at its retail price of $700, they gave this phone just enough features to make it worth the money. You have a phenomenal display. You don't have a 4K display or something like that, but it's still very, very good. It gets very, very bright. This phone has great performance. And yeah, they have a little bit less RAM than something like the Galaxy S20. But you have the Snapdragon 865, at least in most areas. A couple areas might have an Exynos version. But the Snapdragon 865 in the US is great. It's extremely fast. You're going to be able to game on it well. So you got a great display. It's 120 Hertz with that refresh rate, which is a big bonus. Great performance. And on top of all that, you get wireless charging. You get pretty good fast charging. And this phone is water resistant, which is a big bonus. And this phone, with good speakers, with a good camera, a very good camera, and very good battery life. Honestly, this phone is nearly perfect in every way. They ticked all the right boxes. They did everything, and the things they skimped out on were so minor. Instead of making your phone charge at like 40 watts or something like that, they have it charging at 25 watts with a fast charger if you buy one. So that's not that bad, right? To skimp out on a little bit of fast charging is not a big deal. To have slightly worse resolution on your screen isn't a big deal, especially when it looks this good. So Samsung did a great job. And the fact that this phone is going on sale, I've seen it around $599. Check the description. It might be at that price on Amazon. Who knows when you're watching this. But this phone for $699 is already a pretty good deal. I'm a real techie guy, but I could never justify spending over $1,000 on a smartphone. And this is really what, in my mind, the Galaxy S20 should have been. So this is absolutely great. They have it at a great price, and with all these sales they have going on, I would recommend this phone every single time over a Galaxy S20 model. I don't really know a person that should spend an extra $300, $400, $500 on one of those when you could get this with all these great features. So overall, this phone is definitely worth buying. I give it a stamp of approval, and I'm gonna get the Pixel 5 in the mail. I'm gonna be reviewing that as well. And this has a bigger battery, a bigger screen, and it has a lot of really nice features, even a better processor than the Pixel 5. So the Pixel 5 has a lot to stack up to with this phone, and if you really want a great phone for the money, I don't know if I would wait for that. I don't even know if I'd wait for any other phone depending on when you're watching this, because this phone is definitely worth buying, and I definitely give it a stamp of approval. Thank you so much for watching this video. I very much appreciate it. Feel free to give me a like and subscribe. That would be awesome. Also, you could follow me on Twitter as well, and my Twitter handle is Digest Android. So feel free to follow me on there. Feel free to also, again, give me that like and subscribe. Thank you so much for supporting. Check the description as well for any links if you want to buy anything. And again, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day and hope you stay safe.